Good morning, it is Brian here. It is Expert Dojo. This is the Art of Startup War. I have an incredible interview today with an entrepreneur that we put money into in an instant. Because even before, and I'm going to talk about why the business is so important, but actually even beforehand, what most investors will say without necessarily saying it out loud, but they'll say to their friends, is that they always bet on the executioner. And that is the startup who is going ahead with this impossible dream at the beginning, that they'll be able to take it all the way to the end because it's so incredibly difficult to be able to actually do it. For me, within 10 seconds of having a conversation with this entrepreneur, I knew for a fact she was going to build a unicorn. And then when I understood the expertise that she had in her space, I realized that this was more than likely going to be that unicorn. So I would like y'all to meet a phenomenal entrepreneur. You're going to learn all about the healthcare space. You're going to learn all about the bio space. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for this wonderful opportunity, Brian. Thank you for the very kind words as well. Really grateful to be here. It is
It's
an honor to
easy.
be
Come on.
given this opportunity, Brian. Thank
It's
you.
easy with you. It's easy with you. And I want to find out all about LiVeritas today. I want to find out all
Absolutely.
about the genesis of this fantastic idea and how you came up with it. But before we go into that, I actually
Sure.
want to start in a place that I don't normally start with people. I want to start with your background. And I
Ooh,
want to
yes.
talk about like the incredible experience that you've built up over the years so we can tease people all the way through to finding out this
Okay.
incredible development that you've come up with. So can we take
Okay.
it back all the way to the beginning
Oh my
and tell us
gosh.
where it started?
Yes. Sure. Maybe I can start with I wrote in my high school yearbook that I want to be a medical researcher without
Wow.
even knowing what that means. I came from a science high school, and all I know is at that time I wanted to be a doctor. But it wasn't possible then. For college, I was very lucky to be accepted in the two most prestigious programs in the Philippines, chemistry with computer engineering, which is the degree that I decided to pursue for college.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when I was 18 years old, I was given this project for my thesis, undergraduate thesis, to work in the instrumentation facility back home. And back home is Manila, Philippines. I was and I work with the only mass spectrometer in my country, and it was such an honor at a young age of 18 years old to be able to use this instrument. So that was 1998. And so from then on, I was hooked. I really
By the
enjoyed
way,
it.
by the
I
way,
really, really enjoyed it. Yeah.
you know everybody's saying right now, mass spec. What's that?
Spectrometer.
What's that? What's that? That's what they're
So,
saying. Mass.
sure. So a mass spectrometer, you can think of it as a weighing scale, but not for people. It's a weighing scale for molecules.
Incredible.
So, everything around us is made of molecules. So everything around us can be measured by this instrument. Through the years, it became more and more advanced. And so I was hooked. The first project at the age of 20, um, I was hired by this instrumentation facility. And from then on, I started building laboratories, analytical laboratories that utilizes this instrument for measuring, for the weighing scale of molecules. So I applied it first for environmental pollutants.
Mm-hmm.
That was a 0 to 1 laboratory operations at the age of 20 years old. I worked with very talented scientists back home who are also computer engineers. So very early on, I had that experience of managing so much data, and we don't know how to very quickly process the data. So we needed software. Even at that stage in the Philippines, 2000, between 2000 and 2004, we were programming our own softwares for internal use just to make sure we manage the data. So,
Wow.
like that was my first project. And I decided to go to graduate school in California. So UC Davis joined the laboratory of a phenomenal professor, Professor Julie Leary, and she's so well respected in the mass spec community. So I learned a lot from her, especially with the advancement of the instruments. So the instruments became more and more sophisticated. So 5 years into graduate school, I decided it's time for me to move on, receive my PhD, and I was invited to apply to an industry position in Pennsylvania. So this is the first time. So the company name is Europeans Lancaster Laboratories, and this is the first industry job that I have here in the United States, and it opened my eyes to how mass spectrometry is very much needed in the world of biopharma and pharmaceutical analytical testing. So during that time, 2 years of working in a GMP laboratory, working with, oh my gosh, more than a dozen biopharma companies, startups, big companies, manufacturing companies. They were sending us monoclonal antibodies and various protein therapeutic drug candidates. And of course, what happened then is, I was working so much time. I was putting in 13-hour, 16-hour work days. And the reason behind that is there was not enough software to support streamlined data processing of all of the data, all of the mass spec data I was generating.
So this is what I'm sure everybody else is also thinking as well.
Mm-hmm.
To measure molecules, i.e., life, it's got to be extremely complicated. I mean,
Right,
to try and even imagine
right.
how to make sense of the data that you're using is so mind-boggling that we're almost in Star Trek. Like we've moved beyond any kind of parallel. So the expertise
Mm-hmm.
that you were building over year after year after year, did that make
Right.
you unique in the space, or are there lots of people who know how to do this? And is it as hard as I imagine it is?
It is, so very interestingly, over time, the combination of all of my experiences made me a unique mass spectrometrist. I have environmental analytical chemistry background. I also have biopharma background. Um, the wide variety of molecules that I've worked with made me unique, especially with the expertise in the biopharma business.
Yeah, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people around you, I'm guessing there are not that many people who are extremely skilled at being able to use mass spectrometry or even the data that's coming from it.
There are plenty of experts out there. There are not that many of us, though. And that's one of the things that's limiting right now the growth of the business, so to speak, growth of the mass spec as a tool, as a powerful tool to support wide variety of industries. From the biopharma space, it can be applied in, it's being applied right now in food analytical testing, in even in horses, like the horse racing business. It's also being used in water analysis business, in all kinds of various environmental monitoring testing out there. It is so powerful, right, that us mass spectrometrists are spread in so many different industries. We
Right.
go to this conference, there are about 6,000 of us attending every year, but the growth hasn't seen an inflection point. We're in at some point from like 6,000, it becomes 10,000 attendees. That would be awesome when you see, more people are involved. So in the past 10 years
Why do you
and more
think
than
that
10
is
years,
why do you think that is, by the way? Why don't you believe it's hit an inflection point yet?
I believe it's in the skill set. It's in the level of complexity of operation of the instrument, the level of complexity in processing the data, and the level of complexity in interpreting the data.
Hmm.
So those are three different skills altogether. Operation of the instrument, is all about hardware operation. Data processing is because of software fragmentation as a limit for streamlining data processing. And the third is application expertise. Data interpretation is limited by the application expertise of the mass spectrometrist. So if you think about it, there might be 6,000 of us attending this conference, but as you move along because of the software limitation and then the industry expertise, it becomes narrower and narrower and narrower. And nowadays in the world of biopharma, my gosh, if you look at mass spec job openings out there in LinkedIn, there's tremendous opportunity. But, from the 5,000, 6,000 mass spectrometrists attending this conference, how many of them are biopharma experts? And how many of them are here in the United States or here in the Bay Area with 5 to 10 years mass spec experience in the biopharma space? There's just, you know and then you go to the limit of the scales between large molecule experts versus small molecule experts. Totally different. It's like you're saying, oh, we need biochemists or protein chemists, mass spectrometrists for the large molecule, and then we need organic chemists, mass spectrometrists for the small molecules. And these two large drug development industries are $500 billion each. So you're bringing in mass spec, a very powerful tool that can really help the drug development industries, both small molecule drugs and large molecule drugs. But the skills are not there to support the need to help in accelerating drug development. So that's where the gap is at the moment.
Yeah. And so when was that moment? Because I know from this moment onwards, you went through a number of companies where you were
Yes.
one of the first few employees and you were
Right.
massive direct assistants to these companies that became massive successes. And then as you went through from company to company, when
Yeah.
was the point that you realized that mass spectrometry was not just the key to drug development, which I really want to talk about now, but we're going to
Sure.
get a little bit later in the podcast. We're going to get to a moment where we look at how it can go beyond drug development to actually a much, much larger market
Sure.
to impact people. But when was that moment where you said, I have to launch a company which is specifically focused on mass spectrometry, and not just that, but also focused on building machine learning into it or intelligent learning into it, where we can actually take the output that we would have got from this before and take it to a whole different level?
So I can answer the first part. It is back in 2015, 2014, while I was at StemCentrix. So this particular company, StemCentrix, is a biotech startup. This was acquired as a unicorn, and StemCentrix gave me my dream job. I was the head of mass spectrometry in a small startup. That was my dream job, and it was fascinating. What opportunity my bosses at StemCentrix and the founding team of StemCentrix entrusted on me. So during that time, I was inspired. I was really inspired to start my own company. And of course, being a mass spectrometrist, I was like, most likely I'm going to start an analytical testing facility similar to, something similar to my former employer, Eurofins Lancaster Labs. But then I was like, no, this needs to mature further. It's not sexy enough. In my mind, an analytical testing facility will not be that sexy. Um, but like over time, you just keep that at the back of your mind and really just think it through. Like, okay, how can I make this a unique? How can I make this a unicorn? Because I came from a unicorn biotech startup. There's always that propensity to say that if my former bosses was able to do it, I can also do it. I was trained by the best of the best. So, like I should be able to do this too. So that was the eureka moment, right? So, but then I knew that, I had to keep it at the back of my pocket for a while and let it mature. And so last year, I gave my in between then and beginning of this year, I started. I co-founded my first startup,
Hmm.
and during that time, there were some moments. So, but the focus of that startup, it utilizes mass spec to unlock the power of glycobiology. And we, our academic co-founders were the stars. They deserve to be the stars, and I believe one of them could be a Nobel laureate in
Wow.
chemistry or chemical biology. Um, but then, like I was a co-founder and I was leading on with the execution. I was the chief scientific officer, but I wasn't ready yet with my confidence and my what do you call this? It's a founder's journey, right? You need to be a certain level of confidence to present yourself
You
out
do.
there and really fully integrate your totality to let your expertise shine. So I wasn't
Yeah, and
ready then yet.
you need to see the
Hmm.
end of the journey as well. Like a lot of the
Yes,
time when you know that there's a huge problem to be solved, you can see the
right.
beginning of the journey. You can say, okay, we have certain
Yeah,
elements here. We have mass spectrometry, we have drug development have got problems, we have got the
right.
measurement of molecules, which are incredibly like we have all of these which can be done
Hmm.
better. Okay,
Oh
tick in the
yeah.
box, I can do all of this. But what you wanted to do, and I can say this knowing you really well now, is you wanted to know how to touch the head of the spear. You wanted to know how can we bring massive, impactful
Yes,
change, and how does
right.
that measure through from the beginning of just fixing something to having an area which is never even imagined before.
Well, I went through a sabbatical, and I consider that as my spiritual journey. There was 2 weeks then that I spent in Italy. I was by myself, and that was a part of a 4-week Europe trip. And during that time, I really had a hard on solid catharsis, serious catharsis during that solo trip. Um, I don't know. It just clicked.
Beautiful.
There was this moment when I realized, what the heck are you doing to yourself, Liza? You've been putting yourself on a lot of risk. You've been putting yourself out there and letting others, take advantage of what you can offer to the world.
Hmm.
What about yourself? How are you taking good care of yourself? For the longest time, I would work crazy hours, regardless of who the employer is, regardless of which startup I'm working for or I've co-founded. And and I didn't know how to project and own my
Yeah.
accomplishments and my expertise. It's like there was something missing. A level of self-respect, maybe a level of self-care that
Mm,
had to be
I
there
don't
in order
know.
to really fully shine.
I don't know if it's that in some cases,
Mm-hmm.
because what you're talking about is
Uh,
tremendously important. And so
mm-hmm.
many people are in really important positions around the world where they're working for other people and they're supporting their dreams and getting them to where they want to go to. But it's not because they don't believe that they're good or they don't feel that they deserve it. It's because they have such a high level of maternal care for the other people, right? Not,
Yeah.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
convinced of this. Guy or girl, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like they care so much about the success of the other people
Yeah.
that nothing is more important. And by the way, I think that's something that's it's great to cherish and own for a period of time because what it shows is that you're a wonderful human being and that other people's success and their happiness is important to you. But I also believe a moment comes in your life where you say, Liza, it's my turn. It's my turn.
Yes.
I did this. I don't regret this. I'm really happy. They became
Yes.
millionaires, billionaires. They did really well. I got
Yep.
fulfilled. But this was
Yeah.
part of a journey that was always supposed to take me here. And I
Yeah.
feel you just hit that moment. Like I don't
I did.
it's hard to know you and even imagine that you had a day in your life where you didn't believe that you could do incredible things. You just started doing them for you.
Right. Exactly. I knew early last year that I can create a unicorn. I knew that, but I felt that at that time I wasn't given the opportunity to build a unicorn. This was in my previous startup. I
Yeah.
don't think it was the proper time. And so in October, I had that eureka moment. I had that catharsis. I purged everything that I can purge during that trip. And then when I got back in the US, I felt so different. So different, more confident of who I am and integrating everything around me. And so after that trip, I followed it with 5 week trip back to my hometown in the Philippines. And for 5 weeks, I reconnected, spent more time with my family, of course, reconnected with my university, which gave me the first opportunity to build a 0 to 1 operations back in the year 2000, right? I
Beautiful.
reconnected with my old friends who are phenomenal computer programmers, but they're also scientists. Um, and at heart, right, we all came from the chemistry with computer engineering program. And I reconnected with my old friends and my community in the Philippines. So it's reconnecting with the heart and going back to my soul, and spending a lot more time with my sister and my parents. Also got to spend some time with my brother and my sister-in-law and my little nephew who flew in from Toronto to all be together during the holiday season back home.
Beautiful.
So when I got back January, I was like, oh man, this is it.
And also,
This
by
is
the
it.
way, your love meter was all filled up as well, right?
Yes,
Because
I
it's
am.
you
I love
need
meter
that.
with
You
yes.
need that, like especially as an entrepreneur. There's so many awesome
Oh my gosh, yeah.
lessons that you're bringing out today because
Absolutely.
the time has to be right for
It
you
has
to
to be
start
right.
the biggest and most important endeavor of your
Right.
life. And that
Right.
means that the experience you had in those companies, that means the support that you felt from your family,
Yeah.
that means that the fact that you recharged your batteries and got ready to go, it explains how you were when I first met you. Because you're like, this is happening. This is happening now.
Yeah.
And it's happening fast.
Yeah.
And I'm not messing around. And if you
I'm
want to
not
join the
messing around
train,
exactly.
you get on this train. But if you're not
Oh
joining
yeah.
the train is leaving. It's not
Exactly.
waiting.
Like it's not gonna wait. It's gonna keep charging.
So I'm like,
I
Liza,
have
wait,
that
wait,
level of
wait.
confidence.
I'm like, wait. I want to get on the
Right?
train because I
Yeah.
knew at that time
Yeah.
that even though we were still going through a journey of working out, not the beachhead is easy. The beachhead is a multi-billion-dollar market. It is
Yes.
evolving
Yeah.
drug development in our lifetime to a
Yes.
level that it could never be possible before. That's not even the question. You're not even trying to
It's not
work out
it's
what your
not a
first
question.
unicorn is, right? This is about
Yeah.
the unicorn on top of the unicorn. So talk to us a bit. Talk to us a
Oh
bit
my, yeah.
about
Hmm.
how drug development can evolve, how mass spec can actually play its place to a far larger effect, and how what you're building was going to enable that to happen.
Well, back at STEM Centrics, that was I felt like that was my first startup. Like what Mass Spec Operations was created then. It felt like it was 0 to 1. By the way, it felt like it was my first test at being a startup. You know, um, what I was able to do together with the team who worked with me, we were able to introduce mass spectrometry as early as possible into the drug development process.
Right.
So we're talking about drug design. And we started at the back end, which is normally the case. You always start with right before it goes to human beings. And that already, huge impact. And a lot of people in the biopharma space know this. There's tremendous impact in putting mass spec right before when the drug goes to human beings. And the problem there is when a drug candidate fails at that point, that's a lot of money already spent. It will be like in the tens of millions of dollars, maybe 20, maybe $50 million spent already. And at least 5 years of drug development.
At
So
least.
what we've done at STEM was add mass spec in early stages of drug design when we were optimizing the design of the antibody drug conjugates in our pipeline. So what we were able to find out, it was very critical to understand its stability, its purity, that has implication on the efficacy and the toxicity of the drug. So I know these are quite technical terms, but think about, the quality of a drug really has an impact on how it will behave in animal trials,
Yeah.
right? Which will have an implication on which drug candidate do we move forward. Is it, you have hundreds of thousands of drug candidates out there. In 2019, close to 500,000 drug candidates will require some level of analytical testing, some kind of testing. And then how do you narrow it down and how do you move forward one specific or up to 2,000, 8,000, maybe 10,000 drug candidates among all of the pharmaceutical companies out there, biopharmaceutical companies out there. How do you promote? How do you screen from 400, 500,000 testings to 10,000 drug candidates that will go to what you call the IND process, which is a regulated space, right? And that is your gate to get into phase 1 to human clinical trials. If you have something that is ambiguous in telling what is the best candidate to move forward, it's going to bite you in the butt. I'm sorry, in the back end of that particular drug development process, and it's going to cost more. If you add something that is a truth teller, I call Mass Spec a truth teller, right? It tells you what's really going on. It's not ambiguous at all. The level of truthfulness that it can provide with regards to your drug design, with regards to your improving your drug development process is phenomenal. You can catch the poor quality drugs out there sooner. Drug candidates, poor quality drug candidates early on, and then you can iterate fast. You fail cheap, you iterate fast, and in the world of disruption, right? We're trying to disrupt anything that requires streamlining. Mass Spec could be that phenomenal tool to help that
And what are you?
iteration.
And then let's look at two extra things because number
Mm-hmm.
one, nobody realizes the actual cost of bringing a drug to the market. Look, what you're telling people is really incredible because nobody has heard this before. They don't know. Everybody assumes, well, what happens is Dr. John takes a drug, works on the drug, brings it through trials, and that drug will hopefully make it through after a period of time. What nobody
Right.
understands is that there's 6,000 Dr. Johns and 5,000 Dr. Marys, and all of them are trying with individual drugs, and they're dealing with false positives, and they're dealing with drugs that they're putting through the process that they think are terrible, which actually would have possibly been good. And it's like a massive racehorse of 12,000 racehorses all running at the
Yes.
same time, but you
Right.
don't know which ones have been given steroids, which ones just happen to have a bad
Exactly.
leg that day, which ones actually just got pushed off the rails. You don't
Yep.
know. So what we
Don't
end
know.
up with is a very ineffective, inefficient process which costs not millions, billions of
Yeah.
dollars. So what you're
Right.
talking about is probably one of the most important evolution in drug development history. We're talking about bringing down the cost of developing drugs. Talking about bringing down the time to develop drugs. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about bringing down the accuracy or increasing the accuracy of the drugs themselves, which will save billions of dollars. Now, you
Yeah.
have an extra layer onto it, which I love, which is not just about using the devices in a way that you can get better accuracy and to make sure that everybody can use it, but it's also about bringing in machine learning into that as well, or
Right.
intelligent learning, as you say,
Yes.
to actually get the results even better. And I think that's where the secret sauce of what you're doing becomes so interesting.
Well, together with my biopharma expertise, I'm bringing in the best of the best analytical chemists and mass spectrometrists out there from the industry. Collectively, we have like 5 decades of biopharma experience. I'm talking about 50 years with from like just 3 people. So we are
Incredible.
real experts. We've worked together in the past. So what we can come up with are very unique machine learning or in industry, what we call industry intelligence that can be used for us to generate unique insights in service to our clients, into our partners. Um, that is very unique from a analytical testing standpoint, because most analytical testing, it offers totally different level of skills as well. In our case, we worked in the biopharma industry for so long, frustrated and understanding really what's going on, what are the unmet needs. And so we have in mind, the unique solutions that can be of great help on how we can very quickly advance the right drug candidates through the pipeline. So out of our decades of frustration, um, because of tremendous need for digital transformation of what we do best, we are coming up with a list of all of the industry intelligences, software solutions, different tools that we are developing in-house, which is a unique offering to our clients. I said earlier, like, how can I make analytical testing more sexy? This is how we are making it sexy.
Absolutely.
We are bringing in our decades of biopharma experience, our frustrations in the laboratory, doing the job that our clients are doing, and translating that into software solutions, into industry intelligence. Actually, the better term would be codifying it into our solutions. And that later on, that's what we're going to offer back to our clients as a SaaS offering, a software as a service offering.
And you
And
know what makes
so
you
this
what
is
make
how we make it sexy.
yes, no, and it's incredible. And what makes you as a company really interesting to investors, and most of the folks who are listening to this podcast are thinking to themselves, and I classify investors in three areas. One investor is, I just want to make money, that's all. And the more money I can make, the happier I am. And then the other investor is, I would like to leave the world a better place than I found
Right.
it. And then the final investor wants both. Right, they want to be able to leave the world in a better place and make a ton of money so they can feel great about what they've done. It's the pinnacle, the
That's
ultimate.
awesome.
And what I love what you're building is not only is this so desperately needed, and every drug company in the world that's looking to
Hmm.
develop better, more efficient, and more effective drugs are going to want to use not just mass spec, that's a no brainer, but they're going to want to use mass spec with intelligence that's
Hmm.
backed up. And like I once heard the phrase that don't worry, you're not going to be replaced by a robot. You're going to be replaced by someone who knows how to work with robots. So the beautiful thing is that you're presenting this. So investors, listen to me when I say this to you. Not only do we have an unbelievably experienced team of people that are especially the specialists within an area that they've known for a combined 50 years. Not only do we have an area of drug development which desperately needs the innovation which is coming to market right now. Not only do we have proven track record with the CEO having worked within three companies that have all had massive successes, which will be alike to what's being created right now. But in addition, I give you something which got me most excited because you just don't see it that often. I give you not a unicorn, I give you a camel. And a camel is a unicorn that actually makes money, and it makes a ton of money. And the reason they call it a camel is because they can carry water for months and months and months and months. So you're not desperately looking for continual rounds of funding. My guess is you won't even need funding beyond Series B. And that's if you take a Series B, because you can generate so much revenue from this company.
That's right. That's right. So what I thought was not sexy before, which is analytical testing, is making LiVeritas sexy in the eyes of investors for sure. Like we're a unique unicorn. We're unique in a way because we are profitable. We can be profitable so quickly since we have analytical testing in the front end of our business. And we utilize our interaction with our clients as a way to receive feedback, immediate feedback. These clients, they are our peers. Most of them are our peers from our many decades working in biopharma. So we're helping them get rid of all of those frustrations that we experienced in the past. And they love it. They love it so much. And so, we're unique in that way because we can help our friends right away in the beginning. And as a result, we earn revenue. And we develop the software solutions. We're codifying our best practices, our industry intelligence, which is very unique compared to everybody else out there. And we're gonna let that mature and give it back to our clients, and we can expand more our clients because later on, this codified solutions for analytical operations and mass spectrometry, guess what, it's not just for biopharma, it's also for analytical testing of environmental samples, which is where I started back in the Philippines. It's also meant for food testing. It's meant for water analysis. It's meant for the horse races. They need analytical testing too for blood testing of horses. It's also for clinical diagnostics. It's also for you name it, you got it, right? Like all kinds of different testing out there where mass spec is utilized. And when you have the software solutions that simplifies the operation, the data interpretation, the data processing of mass spec data, just imagine how many people will be able to use it. My goal is to simplify my 20 years of mass spec experience into a software so that we can hand it off to a beginner, and that beginner will be able to very quickly just utilize the instrument with some training, with some training, and be able to provide unique insights right away to his or her peers who need the molecular insights and unique conclusions.
And
That's my dream.
and ladies and gentlemen, investors who are listening to this, you have just witnessed the birth of LiVeritas, which is going to be the future of everything. And that's why at the very beginning when I said, yeah, it's like you're measuring life. And it starts with the drug, but you're really measuring life. You're measuring everything that can be there and then adding
Yes.
intelligence to it. Like I almost want
Yes.
the word intelligence to be built into your name because it's so important what you actually are able to do with the data and how you can make it so simple that a child could use it. Now, for all of the investors who are looking at revenue, I made a statement earlier on, which is that you have a company which may not even need to raise more than a Series B round, and that
Yes.
you can
Okay.
go into profitability incredibly quickly, and that you can also make a tremendous amount of revenue while bringing an immense amount of good to the world. If we take a number of $5 million a month, and we're saying, okay, if we know that a unicorn is somewhere between $5 million, $2, $3, $5 million a month, and $10 million a month, how long do you think it would take you to reach those type of milestones?
Ooh, with our mass spec as a service business model compared with our SaaS offering, within 5 years for sure we will get to the 5 million per month mark.
Yeah, which
And
is phenomenal.
hopefully our goal is within 8 years that we hit the 10 million per month mark. Um, that's a dream, and our goal is most likely within 10 years we're gonna hit that 10 million per month mark.
And I'm just going to let investors who are listening into this just to soak that in for a moment. Because whenever anyone's listening to an investment podcast like this, what we're all trying to do is find reasons why or how a problem will come, like where a problem will come from. Nothing is ever perfect, and especially not at the early stages. But all of the areas that everybody else is looking for were the same areas that I was looking for at the start, and I couldn't find them. I can't find a flaw in anything that you're doing because you have not only have you started it, you've built a world-class team around you. You've got the investment that you need at least to get everything started. We're now at the next stage where you're going to be going for the seed investment, and you have a direct vision, not to the first stage of how this is going to help people, but to the last stage of what it's going to look like, which means you've got the Holy Grail. So tell us what your raise is going to look like now. What are you raising next? And then what you're going to spend that money on, what it's going to be for.
Within the next 6 months, we are raising between 1.4 million to 1.9 million dollars. We are splitting that into two tranches. And our first close will be October 27, my dad's birthday.
Oh.
And our second tranche close would be our closing of the seed round would be February 25, which is my mom's birthday. And so
awesome.
I think it's perfect that way.
It's awesome.
And with up to $1.9 million, we are covering a lot already. We're expanding operations, of course. Currently, we are at lean operations. The operations with 1.4 to 1.9 million dollars. That would mean we're building a software development team in Manila, harnessing the talent of my friends who are both chemists and computer engineers. And we're also building our capacity here in the Bay Area. We already have identified a potential lab space to lease. That's about 3,000 square feet of lab space. We already have 4 additional PhDs with industry experience both in the biopharma space and clinical diagnostic space who are ready to jump ship the moment we have at least $1 million in our bank account. What else? So 3,000, yes. And we're lining up our biopharma clients. We are in touch right now with more than 10 potential clients. And hopefully within the month of August, we will be able to sign up at least 3, maybe 5, or maybe all 10. So we'll find out. I'm hopeful. And so that's where we are at. We're going to bring in a full-time marketing and sales person. What else? We will most likely bring in as well our CTO. We have a candidate right now. We're exploring the possibility of joining us. And of course, my co-founder, who's so wonderful, even when she's employed full-time in another company, she's going to jump in ship and be full-time with us as well. So that's what's in the horizon, and that's what's going to cover, and that's what will be covered by the 1.4 million to 1.9 million dollar raise. And I believe we will be fine for at least 2 years.
How good do you feel right now? You have a
It feels
glow
good.
on your face when you talk about LiVeritas and what's happening
Yes.
inside it.
Yes.
It's so incredible to watch, and it's also really nice to hear you speak about Manila and actually talk about it becoming a life sciences center of the world. In the same
Oh,
way
yes.
that Tel Aviv became the center of cybersecurity
Right.
and the center of really deep enterprise tech, to be
That's
able to
right.
actually do that within Manila and still have the headquarters in the US, so you have all of the great synergies
Right.
that you want to create just one fantastic company.
So for the Philippines, my dream is to bring my professors in the university. Actually, the chemistry with computer engineering program in my university. I wanted it to shine because the founder of that department, oh my gosh, may their souls rest in peace. I'm honoring them by, lifting up the department and make everyone aware of this unique double degree program back home. Chemistry with computer engineering. So different from across the world.
Beautiful. And let's finish up with
Mhm.
your email and your website so people can
Yes.
contact you, especially investors who, if they don't, they're mad.
So my email is Lieza at LiVeritas.bio. I can spell it out. It's Lieza at LiVeritas.bio. And for our website, it's www.liveritas.bio.
Beautiful. I could not be happier that we made an investment into you right at the beginning. I'm your biggest fan. I'm going to be your biggest stalker over this period of time. You're going to build this company into great things, and I will be there as your humble assistant investor to make sure that we support you for whatever you need. Congrats on it all, and let's build something great.
Oh, thank you so much again. It's been a privilege and an honor to be here. Thank you, Brian.
And that's a wrap.